Okay, so just tell me, what are the semantic elements in HTML?
So semantic tags, basically they are the tags that clearly describe its meaning to both the browser and the developer. Like they have a meaningful name which tells us about the type of the content. For example, there is this header tag there, nav, section, aside, footer. All these tags are there, which tells us like if we are using a footer tag, then this tells us like we should write the contact information here or the authorship information and all. So like that is what the semantic tag is.
Okay, that's fine. And what is the difference between position relative and position absolute?
If we are using the position relative, then in the like offset in the it will try to position itself according to the its current position. But if we are using the position absolute, then it will look for the first non-static ancestor. If the non-static ancestor is present, then it will the element it will position itself according to according to that ancestor. Otherwise, it will position itself according to the browser or the viewport dimensions.
Okay, that's fine. What is Flexbox?
Basically, Flexbox, it's a display property, and it helps us to design the layout of a website very easily without having to write so many float or the positioning properties. And in this Flex, we can use many properties like the flex direction is there, justify content is there, align items is there. So it helps us to make the layout of a website.
Okay, that's fine. And what is box model in CSS?
So for box model, like by default, when the browser shows our element, it automatically like it shows it in the form of a box. It feels like every element is surrounded by a invisible box around it, and there are 4 different layers of this box. First is the content, second is the padding, third is the border, and fourth is the margin. For this content, the actual content is there, and then padding. For this padding is the area between the content and the border. Then there is border is there, and after that margin, it is the space between the elements, like, or we can say it's the space around an element.
Okay, that's fine. Now let's move to the JavaScript questions. Okay, so before okay, let's go with JavaScript. So what is event loop?
Event loop, basically it's a runtime model which is present in the JavaScript engine, and it continuously checks the call stack and the callback queue, and it monitors the call stack and the callback queue, and if there is a callback function waiting in the callback queue to be executed, then it will check if the call stack is empty or not. As soon as the call stack is empty, it will take that callback function from the call stack and push it into the call stack to be executed. So this is the event loop.
Okay, so suppose there is a promise. I have looked something inside the promise, and another one is this set timeout. So which one will execute first? Which one will result us first? The console log.
I think the callback function which is attached with the promise, because when the callbacks which are attached to the promise, they go into the micro task queue, which has a higher priority than the call stack queue, which has a higher priority than the callback queue. So I think that will execute first, and then the callback function which is in the set timeout.
Okay, let's move to the another question. Do you know about the DOM?
Yes, so DOM stands for Document Object Model. Basically, what happens when the browser or client send the information to the server, then server sends us different kinds of data, like it can be any HTML, XML, YML, any kind of data. And when browser gets this HTML, it converts it into JavaScript object through the inbuilt functions in the browser called parsers. and it parses that HTML into JavaScript object and stores it in the memory. So this object that we get from parsing the raw HTML, that is known as the document object model, and its structure, it's like a tree of nodes where every node denotes the HTML element. So this is what DOM is.
Okay, that's fine. What is hoisting in JavaScript?
So basically, hoisting is a phenomenon in JavaScript where we can access any variable or functions before we have initialized them. Basically, hoisting is related to the memory allocation phase of the execution context, because even before executing a single line of code, we have already assigned memory to the functions and variables. And for the var declarations, like all the declarations, var latent cost, they are hoisted, but the var declarations, they are hoisted very differently from the latent cost declarations. The var declarations, they are attached to the global object, that is window for the browser, but latent cost declarations, they are hoisted in a separate memory space called script, and we cannot access it before we have put some value in there. Also, they are said to be in a temporal dead zone, and like it's an area of block where latent cost variables are hoisted, and until they are initialized with a value. So if we try to access those declarations in the temporal dead zone, we get an error that we get a reference error that we cannot access this variable before initialization. And if I talk about the functions hoisting, then the function expression and the arrow functions, they are not hoisted because they behave like any other variable, and a special keyword called undefined is stored in them. Only the normal functions or the regular functions are hoisted. So this is about hoisting, sir.
Okay, that's fine. What is closure?
So basically, a closure is a function bundled together with reference to its lexical environment. For example, like an inner function, it has access to the parameters and the variables declared in its outer function, even when the outer function has been returned. What happens, like when the outer function is returned, so the functional execution context created for that should have been deleted from the call stack. And the variables declared, that should also have been deleted, but that is not the case. When JavaScript engine, it sees that inner function is using the variables of its outer function, so it takes those variables from the stack memory. Since the local variables of a function are stored in the stack memory, it takes it from stack memory and put it into the heap memory, and the inner function get a reference of those variables from there. So it's like inner function, it remembers where it was lexically present, even when its parent is not present there. So that is the closure, sir.
Okay. What is callback hell?
Callback hell, it's like there are multiple callbacks listed stacked below one another, where every callback is taking an argument which is the result of the previous callback. So it makes our code very unreadable and unmaintainable, and our code starts to grow horizontally instead of vertically. And to avoid this problem of callback hell, there is this concept of promises in JavaScript.
Okay, so how many parameters it have?
Callback hell?
No, in promise.
I think it takes callback function where there is two parameters, this resolve and reject is there.
Okay, let's move to the another question. Do you know about the map, filter and reduce?
Yes, sir. So this map, filter and reduce functions, they are like the higher order function in JavaScript, because they take another function as an argument inside it. And map function, it iterates through every element of the array and do some necessary operation on it. And for this, three conditions must be satisfied, like the input should be an array, the output should be an array, and the length of the output should be same as the length of the input array. Now we come to filter function, then it filters the elements of the array based on the condition that we provide inside it. And it also returns us an array, and the length of the array that must be less than or equal to the length of the input array. and this reduce function, it takes all the elements of the array and makes it into a single final value. Like it reduces all the elements of an array into a single value, and it takes two parameters, that is the accumulator and second is the current value. So this is what map filter introduces.
Okay. That's great. How many scopes are there in JavaScript?
Scopes, I think global scope is there, local scope, functional scope, and block scope is there.
Okay. Do you know about the call, bind, and apply?
Yes, sir. So basically, this call, apply, and bind, that is the, it's like it helps us to do the function borrowing. Like we can borrow a function from some object and can use it with the data of some other object. For this call method, it takes two arguments. First is the reference, like where I want my this keyword to be pointing to, which object, and second is the argument to the function. And apply is same as call. The only difference is that the later arguments it takes it in the form of an array, wherein call we have to pass the arguments explicitly. And bind is also same as call, but difference is that instead of just immediately invoking the function, it returns us the copy of the function, which we can invoke later in our code. So that is call, apply, and bind stuff.
Okay, fine. What is this keyword?
So this keyword in JavaScript, it refers to the object, and which object it will refer to, it depends. Like for example, if we just do the console.log this, then it refers to the global object, that is window for the browser. And if we are using it inside a function, then I think global object is the default binding for this inside a function. And if we are using the strict mode in JavaScript, then inside a function it will give us undefined. I only know about this, sir.
Oh, okay, that's fine. What is the difference between arrow function and normal function?
So arrow function basically it allows us to write shorter function syntax, like it allows us to write less code than in the regular function. And arrow functions, they are not hoisted like the regular function, and I think in arrow function, when we use this keyword, it will always point it to the object that defined the arrow function. But in regular function, there is like not anything like that. And in arrow, we cannot use arrow function as the constructor also, while we can use regular function as the constructor. I can only think of this much right now, sir.
Oh, okay, that's fine. What is memoization? Do you know?
Memoization, it's like we are storing a cached value. Like if we are using a function, then we are storing its returned value as a cache value. Like like basically it is used to avoid the re-rendering problem in React. I think if like it is used to do the performance optimization, and for example, the returned value of a function will be cached, and we don't have to calculate any heavy or expensive calculation on every render. So that is what memoization is.
Okay.
For example, we use this memoization in the use memo and the use callback hook in React.
Okay, so just tell me the difference. Just tell me about the spread operator and the rest operator.
So it's both are denoted by the 3 dot or the 3 periods. And spread operator, it allows expressions to be expanded in places where multiple arguments or elements or variables are expected. Like some of the common use case of this spread operator, it can be like we can quickly copy an array, or we can concatenate 2 or multiple arrays, or we can anchor elements of an array as an argument into a function. So these are some of the common use cases of a spread operator. And the rest operator, it is basically same as the spread operator. The only difference is that like it's opposite of a spread operator. It instead of expanding the instead of expanding the any expression, it will connect multiple element and it will condense it into the form of a new array element. So this is what we're stopping to.
Okay, that's fine.